following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Andrea Bharatt's father retires, declaring, "I will not mind the criminals." As he hustled through his workshop, auto electrician Randolph Bharatt, the father of slain Andrea Bharatt, initially declined our interview, asking, "You want to hear my voice? I never had a voice." He said he was a simple man who didn't like the limelight. "That was never me. I don't like all this media thing." And as he briskly moves about installing a light on Andrea's vehicle she hardly got the chance to use, Bharatt said he has to keep busy. Since Andrea's passing 2 weeks ago, he decided to retire, as there's no point to working. And more than anything, he refuses to continue to work to mind criminals behind bars. "I worked hard enough. You know how much work I did for people? Must be the same criminals come here and get free work too," he said as he looked to the gate. During the interview, 3 separate people dropped by, all unknown to the family, strangers who felt compelled to meet Andrea's dad. The man who shows a brave face to the world, but says from time to time the clock strikes 6, he's different. "It's like I'm a big black hole." Randolph Bharatt has lived through it all, starting off in life picking up bottles, but working tirelessly to get where he is today. As a young man, he was addicted to alcohol and even smoked. But when his wife died 8 years ago and he became Andrea's sole provider, Bharatt said it all stopped. Today, he accepts Andrea is no longer here. In the room she occupied for most of her life, a single candle still lights. The room is neat and simple, but immaculately kept. Andrea's certificates and books line her wall. "Whatever has to happen will happen, and what has to happen to me will not happen to you. Do you know the amount of things had to be put in place for this to happen to Andrea?" But accepting the body he saw and identified as hers is another story. That was not the same young woman he loved, cherished, and saw off that Friday. "I accept what has happened. I accept that she is not here. I don't know where the courage comes from. Only Papa God could answer that. He has managed to block a lot out of his mind. I accept they bashed her face in, and that is how she died. But you see the violation? That part? The family is due to get that report next week, but he admitted that it would be a very difficult blow for him. He describes his daughter as a quiet and gentle soul, but one who had brains too bad. Before her death, Andrea shared plans of getting married, but told her father, "If I die before I get married, don't do a funeral for me, do a wedding." Randolph Bharatt said countless family members of missing and murdered persons have reached out. "People come here, look at me, and start crying, but at least they leave feeling comforted." "Even he sounds better today," Bharatt said as he pointed to the phone. He just hung up after talking to a doctor experiencing a similar loss. Last week, a lady came with her 2 daughters, 2 school children. They wanted to see Andrea's banner. They stood there and were just crying. After talking a bit, they left feeling much better. "I think this is my calling. There's nothing else I can do." He has little expectations as it relates to justice. "I'm not looking out for any justice. Man can't do that. God will take care of that. That child didn't belong to me. She belongs to God. And the whole world is praying, so I'm sorry for them. But for me, if there was another job, that would be me." He, however, feels his calling is counseling, as he believes he can be the source of comfort and courage to others in similar circumstances. A relative dropped by the workshop, bringing news of another close rape and kidnap in a repo yesterday. But the would-be victim escaped by slashing her attacker. Mr. Bharatt looked up, a sense of satisfaction on his face as he said, "You see why we need these laws for pepper sprays and tasers? So women can have a chance to defend themselves. Just give them that chance." Laws can't do anything for him again, and the justice system in which his daughter toiled for years was the very one which failed her. Andrea Bharatt was a 23-year-old law clerk at the Arima Magistrates Court. She alighted a falsely registered taxi in Arima on January 29th. Her decomposed body was found 6 days later in the heights of a repo. While the first autopsy returned inconclusive findings, the second stated she was hit with a blunt object to the front of her head, fell to the back, her skull cracked, and she suffered hemorrhaging. Two suspects, Andrew Morris and Joel Balcon, died while in police custody, while being questioned in connection with Andrea's disappearance, while Negus George has been charged with her murder. What's your verdict? Do you think Randolph Bharatt should fight for justice for Andrea in the court system? Or do you think he should start a support and wellness group for the close relatives of the victims of violent crime? Woman robbed and beaten in PH taxi in San Fernando. A 59-year-old woman who entered a PH taxi and asked to be taken to Siparia was robbed and thrown out of the vehicle on Wednesday afternoon. The woman told police she entered a gold-colored vehicle along High Street, San Fernando, at around 4 p.m. A man was seated in the front passenger seat. As the driver proceeded, police said the male passenger said there was an accident in DB and traffic was diverted to Woodland. However, on reaching the M2 Ring Road, the male passenger jumped over to the back seat and ordered the woman to hand over her valuables. The woman was robbed of cash, jewelry, and her cell phone. She was then pushed out of the vehicle near an unfinished housing development, police said. The woman made her way to La Romaine Police Post where she reported the incident. San Fernando CID officers, led by Corporal Mohammed, conducted inquiries. PC Sujit Ramcharan and Williams conducted a search of the area, but the suspects were not found.